The silence after the speech lights were bright. The applause was loud. Cameras flashed like a storm. It was the final night of the International Film Awards, and the crowd inside the grand hall rose to their feet. One name echoed through. The room carried on every breath and every cheer: Keanu. 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 He stood tall on the stage, wearing a simple black suit, nothing flashy. His long hair brushed past his shoulders, and his hands stayed calmly at his sides. Beside him stood others who worked on the film: producers, writers, actors, directors. Everyone smiling, everyone proud, but someone was missing. Someone who had been there every day. Someone who had cried behind the scenes. Someone who had carried the weight of the most emotional scenes. Someone who gave her all: Ana de Armas. She had not been invited to the stage. In the moment it happened, it seemed small to others. Just a skipped name, just a forgotten shout-out in a list of credits. The announcer moved on fast, reading names like a machine, but Keanu noticed. And when he looked to the front row and saw Ana sitting quietly in her seat, head bowed, hands folded tightly in her lap, he felt a sharp pain rise in his chest. She was smiling, but it wasn't real. Her eyes didn't shine like they usually did. Her smile was not made of joy but of survival. It was the kind of smile people wear when they are trying not to cry in front of 1,000. People no one else noticed, but Keanu did. His mind traveled back to the shoot. The cold mornings, the late nights, the times Ana stood barefoot on rough gravel just to get a perfect shot. The scenes where she let real tears fall for the camera. The day she got a call from home, bad news, and still showed up on set. 2 hours later, to finish a scene like nothing had happened. He remembered the way she helped the young actress who was too nervous to act in front of the camera. He remembered how she learned an entire new monologue overnight because the script was changed at the last minute. And now, on the biggest night, they had forgotten her name as the applause faded. The host approached the microphone again to end the ceremony. But before he could speak, Keanu raised his hand slightly and stepped forward. The room went quiet. Everyone looked up. He spoke gently, calmly, and clearly. "Excuse me?" he said, voice steady. "Before we leave tonight, I need to say something." Host stepped back, unsure. Keanu turned to the crowd. He didn't shout. He didn't show anger. He didn't accuse. But there was power in his voice, the kind of power that comes from deep respect and quiet pain. "I've worked in this industry for a long time," he began. "I've stood on many stages. I know that sometimes people get forgotten. Sometimes names are skipped. Sometimes it's a mistake. But tonight, someone's name was left out who should have been the first one mentioned." The room was still. The cameras turned to Ana. "Ana de Armas," he said softly, "carried this film on her shoulders. She gave more than was ever asked of her. She gave heart, soul, time, patience, and grace. And if her name is not worthy to be spoken on this stage, then mine isn't either." Gasps echoed through the hall. "So if you're going to forget her," Keanu said, looking at the organizers near the curtain, "then take mine off too." Ana's eyes widened. Her lips trembled. She tried to stand but sat back down, overwhelmed. She had not expected this. She had not wanted a scene, but this was not a scene. This was kindness. This was a man using his voice for someone. Else there was silence, and then applause. Slow at first, then stronger. Some people stood, others followed, and soon the entire room was clapping, not just for Keanu, not just for Ana, but for what was right. Tears slipped down Ana's cheeks. This time, she did not try to hide them. After the show ended, Ana stepped outside the hall. The cool night air hit her skin. She walked slowly, needing to be alone for a moment. But she wasn't alone for long. Footsteps behind her. She turned. It was Keanu. He didn't speak at first, just stood with her. He looked at the quiet street, the stars above, and the wind that moved gently through the trees. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "I did," he replied, "because it mattered." Ana looked at him. "But it could have cost you if I stay quiet when something's wrong." He said, "Then everything I say when things are easy means nothing." She nodded slowly. Words failed her. They stood. There a little longer, then Keanu smiled. The kind of smile that says, I see you. I respect you. And I'm with you. It wasn't the awards that made the night unforgettable. It was the moment someone stood up for someone else, not with anger, not with pride, but with quiet love and courage. And that moment was only the beginning. The quiet storm behind the curtain. Next morning, news had already spread. Clips of Keanu's quiet stand were everywhere. Online videos, social media, entertainment news. People replayed that short speech over and over. Some called it powerful. Others called it bold. But for Anna, it was something else entirely. It was a rescue. She had gone to bed the night before with a heavy heart. Not because her name was missed, but because it had reminded her of something deeper. For years she had worked hard, trying to prove she belonged in the same rooms as the others. She had faced whispers, small comments about her accent, questions about where she came from, and people who called her lucky instead of talented. But last night, when Keanu spoke, something shifted inside her. It wasn't just about the forgotten name. It was about being seen, truly seen, for who she was and what she had given. Anna sat in her small kitchen, sipping tea as the sunlight touched the floor. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Friends, fans, people she hadn't heard from in years. She didn't answer most of them. She wasn't sure what to say. She thought about calling Keanu, but she didn't want to bother him. So she just typed a short message. Thank you for everything, for noticing. But she didn't send it. Across the city, Keanu sat on the balcony of his apartment, legs crossed, a book open in his lap but unread. He, too, had been up most of the night. Not because he was worried, but because something didn't sit right. He had seen this pattern before. Kindness made people uncomfortable. Sometimes it inspired. Sometimes it caused trouble. And sometimes it made enemies. His phone rang. It was his manager, Keanu. The voice said sharply, "We need to talk." He knew that tone. Business tone. Warning tone. "You made a scene last night," the manager continued. "Some of the producers are not happy. They're saying you embarrassed them, that you challenged the award process. They're even talking about pulling some deals." Keanu stayed calm. "They forgot her name." "That's all I said." "That's not all you said." The voice replied, "You told the world you'd rather not be honored than stand without her." That kind of message travels fast, and not everyone likes it. Keanu leaned back. "Then maybe they need to hear it twice." The line went quiet. Then the manager sighed. "Just keep a low profile for now." Keanu ended the call without replying. He stood up, walked to the railing, and looked out at the city. He wasn't angry, just tired. How could standing up for someone be seen as wrong? Meanwhile, Anna stepped out to take a walk. She wore a cap low over her face and sunglasses, trying to avoid attention. But still, people recognized her. A few nodded. One woman approached, gently. "I saw what happened," the woman said, voice soft. "I just wanted to say. Felt like that before. Invisible. Forgotten. But last night, you weren't invisible to him. And because of that, I don't feel invisible today either." Anna's eyes welled up. She didn't know what to say, so she just hugged the woman. That night, she got an invitation. Not from a studio, not from an award body, but from a small film school. They asked her to speak to their students, young actors from many places, many backgrounds. She accepted. When she arrived at the school, the classroom was filled with nervous energy. The students were young, eager, uncertain, like she once was. Anna stood in front of them, no notes, no plan. She told them about her first audition in a language she had barely learned, about being told her accent might be too thick for lead roles, about the time someone said, "You're pretty, but maybe not lead pretty." And she told them about the night they forgot to say her name, and what happened after. A boy in the front row raised his hand. "Why didn't you say something yourself?" he asked. Anna smiled gently. "Because sometimes you're too tired to speak. Sometimes you just need someone else to speak for you." Then a girl said, "Did you ever want to quit?" Anna nodded. Yes, many times. What stopped you? Someone asked from the back. Someone believed in me, she replied, even when I didn't. That evening, as she walked out of the school, she saw a quiet figure waiting near a tree outside the gate. Keanu, he didn't speak right away, just handed her a small folded piece of paper. She opened it. Inside were only 5 words, "You've always been enough." Kana didn't hide her tears this time. "How did you know I was here?" she asked. "I read the quiet pages," he said. "What does that mean?" "Most people only see the headline," he replied. "But you learn more by reading what others skip." She smiled. For the first time in weeks, it reached her eyes. But the world behind them was still moving. And not all of it was kind. Back in a tall glass building, a group of people sat around a long table. Powerful people they were looking at. Clips, discussing headlines, making decisions. "She's getting attention now," one of them said. "Should we change our casting plan?" Another replied, "Maybe, but what about him?" Third voice said sharply, "He's become unpredictable. Maybe we delay the project." Their faces were calm, their voices cold, and just like that, behind the scenes, quiet punishments began to form. Neither Anna nor Keanu knew it yet, but the real challenge hadn't even begun. The offers that never come. 3 weeks passed. No new calls came for Anna, no emails, no offers, no callbacks. She didn't panic at first. In Hollywood, silence was normal after award season. She told herself maybe people were just busy. Maybe they were resetting, waiting for the next cycle. But when her agent stopped replying, when her regular casting assistant left her message on read, she felt it, the freeze, behind smiles and perfect lighting. Hollywood had quiet ways of punishing those who disrupted the script. Anna sat alone in her apartment, phone beside her, untouched. She scrolled through old messages, producers who once called her amazing, directors who said we'll work again soon. All gone quiet. And then the thought came. Was this because of that night? She didn't want to believe it. It didn't seem fair. She hadn't spoken out. She hadn't attacked anyone. She hadn't even asked for that moment on stage. She had just sat there, quietly forgotten. And yet, somehow she was now the problem across the city. Keanu was feeling it too. He had been in talks for a meaningful role in a new film. The script was close to his heart, a quiet story about loss, recovery, and hope. He had said yes. Everything was ready. But now the call came. "We're going another direction," the voice said coldly. "Why?" he asked. "No reason we can share officially," the voice replied. "Just changes in direction." He knew what that meant. It wasn't about the story or his talent. It was about the moment on stage. It was about what that moment represented, a quiet protest. A refusal to play the game. Keanu hung up. He sat down by the window. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and gold. He didn't regret his choice, but he could feel the weight of it now. Meanwhile, Anna started getting strange comments online, not from fans, from fake accounts. Messages like, "She's lucky." To even be mentioned, she should thank Keanu and move on. Playing the victim doesn't win roles. Anna didn't respond. She just turned off the notifications. But the pain was real then. One evening, there was a knock on her door. She opened it, unsure. Keanu stood there, holding a bag of groceries and a quiet smile. "You haven't been eating well," he said softly. "I could tell." She stepped aside and let him in. They sat at her kitchen table, simple food between them, pasta, bread, tea. They didn't talk about the industry, or silence, or punishment. They just talked. About little things, the garden on her balcony, a dream he had about riding a bicycle through the clouds, a book she once read as a child. After dinner, stood to leave, but turned at the door. "They'll try to make you small," he said, "so they don't have to feel small themselves." Anna looked at him. What if it works? He paused, then said quietly, "Then we get small together. And from there we grow again." He left. Anna sat for a long time, staring at her balcony flowers in the night wind. The next morning, she made a choice. She opened her laptop. She wrote a short post. On her page, "Dear friends, I was never trying to make noise. But silence doesn't always feel safe either. Thank you to the ones who see beyond the surface. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just starting over. Love, Anna." She didn't check the response, not right away. She just closed the laptop and stepped outside, letting the sun warm her face. Meanwhile, someone else read that post. A small indie director in New York. She had no big studio behind her, just a dream and a script that needed heart. She messaged Anna, "Your post gave me chills. I have a story that only you can tell. It's about a woman who refuses to disappear." Anna stared at the message, then smiled at the same time. Keanu was called by a quiet studio, not the big names, but people who believed in story first. They offered him a role. Not for money, not for awards, but for truth. The two of them, one in a small New York apartment, the other in a rented rehearsal space, slowly stepped into something new, different, less shiny, but more real, however. Not everyone liked the light returning to them. The same room full of polished suits from before was watching again their finding work. One said sharply, "We need to make sure this doesn't become a trend. Maybe we remind the media who owns the story." Another added, "Plans were made. Calls were placed, but something had changed. Keanu and Anna weren't alone anymore. People were watching, and this time they weren't afraid to speak. But the storm was only starting." The interviews they didn't expect. Morning air in New York was sharp, the kind that made people walk faster and talk less. Anna stood in front of a small theater, holding a paper coffee cup and a folder of notes. She wore no makeup, no designer coat, just a thick sweater and worn jeans. Inside the theater, the indie director waited with a smile and a story. This new film wasn't a blockbuster. It wouldn't play on giant screens or be talked about on red carpets, but it had a heartbeat. And every page of the script felt like something she had lived. Anna stepped into the rehearsal room and breathed deeply. There were no agents, no bodyguards, no flashing lights, just wooden floors, folding chairs, and people who cared. Back in Los Angeles, Keanu stood at the edge of a small soundstage. A camera crew of only 5 people worked quietly behind him. The film he was helping with had no studio logo. It's just a message, a story about kindness, regret, finding peace when the world turns cold. It was exactly the kind of story Hollywood often forgot. During a break, one of the younger crew members came up to him. "Hey, Keanu," he said nervously, "just wanted to say, I saw what you did for Anna." That moment, it stayed with me. Keanu looked at the young man. "Thank you," he said softly. "It stayed with me too." A few days later, Anna's film was picked up by a small festival. The crowd was small, but the feeling in the room was electric. After the film ended, people clapped, not loudly, but with warmth. Many had tears in their eyes. Anna stood beside the director, feeling shy, unsure. Then a journalist raised her hand. "Mr. Armas, your performance was powerful. But the film also felt personal. Was it based on something you've lived?" Anna paused, then nodded slowly. "It's not just about my life," she said quietly. "It's about anyone who's ever been told they don't matter." The journalist lowered her pen. The room fell still. "We all deserve to be seen," Anna added, "whether on a stage or in a hallway." Meanwhile, back in Los Angeles, Keanu was invited to a late-night interview. The host smiled politely, but there was tension behind the grin. "Keanu," the host began, "you've had a long career, but lately you've been involved in some unexpected headlines." Keanu nodded calmly. "Let's talk about that award show moment," the host continued. "Do you regret saying what you said?" Keanu looked at the camera. "Not at all," he said. "I spoke from the heart." "But do you think that kind of honesty has a place in this industry?" Keanu smiled, but it wasn't the soft kind. "I think honesty always has a place," he said. "And if this industry doesn't make space for it, then maybe we build something better." The audience clapped louder than expected. The host blinked, surprised. After the show, the clip was posted online. Within hours, spread, not just on gossip sites, but on blogs, in classrooms, in spaces where people were hungry for something real. Someone wrote under the video, "He didn't defend her to be a hero. He did it because it was right. And that's rarer than talent." The comment got thousands of likes, but as the light around them grew, so did the shadows. Anna's old studio team released a quiet statement. "We support all our actors equally. Any confusion about past events is unfortunate and untrue." No name was mentioned, no apology was made, but the message was clear. Be quiet. Move on. Stop stirring the water, Anna. Read it once. Then close the screen. She didn't cry this time. She didn't feel small either because something in her had changed. She had found her voice. Not the loud one, not the one that fights, but the steady one that stays. Keanu called that evening. "Did you see it?" He asked. "I did," she said. "I'm not surprised." "Want to go for a walk?" he asked. She smiled. "Always." So they met near a quiet park in Los Angeles. No cameras, no makeup. Just two people who knew the cost of being real. They walked. Side by side, Anna looked at him. "Do you ever wonder if this was worth it?" Keanu didn't answer right away, then said, "I don't measure worth in roles or headlines. I measure it in peace." "You have peace now?" He looked at her. "More than I've had in years." They stopped near a bench and sat. A small bird hopped across the path. Anna laughed softly. "You think the bird cares about awards?" Keanu smiled. "Probably just wants crumbs." "Me too," she whispered, and they laughed. Not because everything was fine, but because they weren't afraid anymore. At the same moment, somewhere across town, a producer looked out his office window. He was one of the voices who had tried to bury them in silence. His assistant entered. "Sir," she said, "you might want to see this." She handed him a report. Anna's film had gone viral. Keanu's single quotes interview had reached 10 million views. The people were choosing the truth over the polish, and the machine was losing its grip. He frowned. "Schedule a meeting," he said coldly. "We might need to adjust." But the world had already begun adjusting itself. From quiet classrooms to noisy kitchens. People were saying the same thing. "I won't let them forget my name either." The seat at the table, sound of clapping filled the small hall. It was different from Hollywood applause. It wasn't forced. It wasn't for show. It was real, warm. Anna stood on stage at a women's creative conference holding a paper. In her hand, she had been asked to give a speech. It's not as a star, it's not as a name on a screen, but as a person who had lived through being overlooked and still stayed standing. "I used to think success meant being chosen," she said softly into the mic. "Being picked for a role, being praised, being seen. But now, I believe real. Success is knowing who you are even when no one's looking." The room was silent. People listened. "I used to wait for a seat at the table," she continued. "But now I know, if the table doesn't have a chair for you, you can build your own table." The crowd stood and clapped. After the talk, a young girl approached her backstage. She looked no older than 20. "They never say my name." "Right at auditions," the girl whispered. "They say it's too hard. Or they ask if I can change it." Anna leaned down. "Don't," she said. "Your name is a song. Let them learn it." The girl cried. Not loudly, just a tear rolling down her cheek. Anna hugged her and whispered again, "You matter." Somewhere else in Los Angeles, Keanu was sitting across from an old friend in a tiny cafe. No cameras, no press. Just steam, rising from their coffee. "They're still trying to push you out," his friend said. "They keep saying you've gone soft. It's too emotional, too unpredictable." Keanu stirred his drink. "I guess they forgot emotions make good stories." Friend laughed. "You're not wrong. But are you sure this is the road you want? Less movies? Fewer offers? Smaller paychecks?" Keanu looked outside the window, where a little boy was helping his grandmother cross the street. "I'd rather make less and feel more," he said quietly, The next day, Anna got a message from a very large studio. It wasn't an apology, but it was an offer. They were making a new movie. Big budget. High profile. They wanted her to play a supporting role. They didn't offer a lead. They didn't ask her for ideas. They just sent the script like a peace offering wrapped in gold, her agent called. "This is your way back in. Take it." Anna read the script 3 times. Her role, quiet, background, few lines. Her character didn't even have a last name. It wasn't about the money. It was about the message. We'll use you, but only if you stay quiet. She sat in her living room for hours, script in her lap. Then she picked up her phone and texted Keanu. "They offered me something big, but it feels hollow." Keanu replied almost instantly. "What does your gut say?" She answered, "My gut says this is the same table where they once forgot my name." Keanu wrote, "Then don't sit at it. Build your own." Same night, Anna emailed the small indie director from New York. "Do you still have that script? The one we talked about before?" The director replied within 10 minutes. Double quotes. "Yes, and I was hoping you'd say that." Within weeks, they were filming again. This time, Anna wasn't just the lead actress. She was co-producer. She had a voice. Not just in front of the camera, but behind it. She called Keanu and asked, "Would you consider joining us for one scene?" "Only if I can do it for free," he said. The film grew quietly, not with ads, not with hype, but with meaning. And then something unexpected happened. A famous writer saw an early cut. He shared it online, calling it a breath of fresh air in a world choking on glitter. People noticed. Small theaters began requesting it. College campuses added it to discussion. Night's message was growing, not loud, not angry, but strong. Meanwhile, the studio that had offered her the background role called again. Anna, the executive, said, "We heard you're making your own film. That's surprising." "Why?" she asked calmly. "Well, it's risky," the voice replied. "Are you sure you want to take that path?" She paused, then said, "The riskiest thing I ever did was believe silence would protect me. Not anymore." Click, she ended the call. Keanu met her a week later in a small screening room. They sat in the back row, watching the final cut of the film. No crowd, just them at the end. The screen faded to black, then one name appeared. Ana de Armas, lead co-writer. Co-producer. Anna stared at the screen. Her name was there, not missed, not forgotten, not hidden behind someone else's spotlight. Just hers. Keanu looked over. "They'll never forget now," he whispered. Anna didn't reply. She didn't need to. Her silence this time was not sadness. It was peace. But outside the theater, forces were still moving. Jealous eyes, threatened hearts. Because the system does not like when people choose freedom, and it had one last move to play. The name they couldn't erase at the night of the premiere arrived. Not in a huge Hollywood arena, but in a modest independent theater downtown, with string lights outside and folding chairs placed in quiet rows. It was not about fame, it was about heart, and the room was full. Young filmmakers, first-time actors, fans, who had followed Anna since her earliest work, people who didn't come for glamour, they came for truth. Anna stepped onto the small stage before the film started. Her dress was simple, her voice steady. "Thank you for being here," she said. "This film was made with nothing but love, fear, tears, and hope. It was born from a moment when I felt unseen. And now I see all of you." The crowd clapped, slow and meaningful, in the back row. Keanu stood, hands in his coat pockets. Watching, he didn't speak that night. He didn't need to. His presence was enough. The lights dimmed, the screen lit up. The story began, and for 2 hours, no one checked their phones. No one whispered. The film held them gently, like a soft hand on the shoulder. When it ended, people didn't rush to the door. They sat still, letting it sink in. And then, one by one, they stood. Not with wild cheers, but with quiet, full hearts. The applause was like rain, gentle, healing. The next morning, something unexpected happened. The biggest newspaper in the country printed a full-page review. A film that dares to speak in a whisper while the world shouts. Praised Anna's performance, calling it her most honest, layered work. It mentioned her by name first, a few days later. She was invited to speak on a major platform, not as a star, but as a storyteller. When the interviewer asked her, "Do you forgive the ones who forgot you?" she smiled. "They didn't forget," she said calmly. "They just chose not to see." "What?" "But I'm not here to punish them.
Act.
I'm here to remind them we all matter." Her words spread fast. The video of that answer was shared everywhere, even in classrooms, where teachers played it before lessons about courage, even in community centers, where young girls with hard-to-pronounce names whispered to themselves, "I won't let them erase me." Meanwhile, the old studio heads tried to rewrite the past. They sent quiet messages, invitations. "We were always supporters," they claimed. But it was too late. A new space had been made, a table where stories were chosen not by money or marketing, but by soul. Anna got letters from actors she didn't know, from waitresses, from teachers. One read, "They didn't say my name either, but now I know that doesn't mean it wasn't worth saying." And Keanu. He kept making small films. He kept helping unknown writers get their first shot. He stayed quiet, but never absent. And sometimes when he walked into a set, someone would smile at him and say, "I remember what you did." He always replied the same way. It wasn't for applause. It was for her. One evening, as the sky turned pink and gold, Anna and Keanu met again. This time, on the roof of an old building that overlooked the city. She had just received news that her film had been nominated for several awards, not because it chased them, but because the world couldn't ignore it anymore. "It's strange," Anna said. "I didn't chase this. I just told the truth." Keanu nodded. Truth always comes back, sometimes late, but never empty. She looked at him. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Not even for a second." They sat in silence, watching the lights below. It started with a missing name, she whispered. "And it ended," Keanu said, "with yours written in light." She smiled, a real smile, the kind that doesn't hide pain or fear, the kind that comes after both have been walked through and survived. A breeze passed between them, soft and full of peace. They didn't say goodbye because some stories never really end. They just keep reminding us that kindness may not be loud, but it is never invisible, and that standing up for someone, even in silence, can echo louder than 1,000 names on a screen.